Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Tom Spark. Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about the deep division in the Federal Reserve, what's going on, and why it might spell doom for the economy. So guys, I'm pretty much looking at this article right here. It's paywalled, it's from Reuters, but I was able to use AI to analyze it and get the main points from the article. Now, if you guys want to be like me and use my AI model to predict the recession, go ahead and check out recessionistpro.com. I'll put a link in the description. It uses 15 indicators from various data sources to try to predict when the recession is going to happen. There's lots of resources, forecast models, and a free blog too. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and talk about the points from this article. I'm not bothering and showing it on screen since it's paywalled. But anyways, one of the things the article is talking about is how the Federal Reserve officials broadly supported rate cuts, but reluctantly so. A lot of people think that the Federal Reserve being dovish all of a sudden, or that, they're going to start the money printer, is all of a sudden very bullish. However, that is not the case, and the Federal Reserve meeting today on the 30th proves that. And it's kind of proving what I've been saying all along. You might be thinking I'm a little too bearish, but for good reason. The reason is because the Federal Reserve is reluctantly cutting interest rates because the economy is slowing down. Job numbers are going down, which is not good for the economy overall. It means there's going to be less GDP, less growth, and so on. Less people having jobs means there's going to be less money spent as well. Rate cuts were seen as risk management, not a green light for growth, and not what many are thinking of as a soft landing victory lap. Now, if my recession model proved inaccurate and we achieved a soft landing, the news right now would probably be a little bit different. But the news is saying we're not really headed towards a soft landing, at least not right now. Other things interesting about this article and debate at the Fed is that the internal agreement was real. 6 officials outright opposed the cut, 2 dissenters were voting members, so there's more dissent than in more actual voting. But the course to identify what's going on is that the Fed is not unified. Now, if you look at historical recessions, almost all the recessions happened because people in charge weren't doing their jobs correctly. Basically, there was not unification. People messed up. People are human, and that's what's happening once again, or at least that's what it seems like. There didn't seem to be a ton of agreement on whether rates should be cut more, less, or not at all, which is generally not a good sign based on all these different factors going on in an economy. When a recession happens, it's due to a variety of variables that are very hard to control against one another. For example, if you reduce interest rates, sometimes it can make inflation go higher. Or let's say you're enacting tariffs to try to bring more activity to the United States. This can make the price of goods increase, which therefore increases inflation as well. Now, if jobs are doing really well, generally you don't really want to decrease interest rates since the economy is doing well. But as you can see, all these variables interact together and can be quite complex. But the main reason things are slowing down right now is because of the labor market. And that's what I've been talking about a lot. If you look at the ADP job reports, things are not doing very well. With last report, 32,000 job losses, and the numbers are as bad as they were back in 2021. There's also less hiring, and people who don't have jobs are finding it harder to find jobs than before. So basically, the Fed is cutting interest rates to prevent further damage, not stimulating upside, which basically means they see a wound and they're trying to put a Band-Aid on it as quick as possible to stop it from being infected or spurting blood everywhere. Now, some of the Federal Reserve members worry that inflation could re-accelerate, which would not be very good for the economy since people are already having a hard time paying for things as is. This could make people spend less. Inflation might eventually go down, but not before the recession is already here. People think that inflation could go too high if rate cuts happen too fast, but if jobs get worse, they might need to cut things. It just puts them in a very tricky recession. It puts them in a very tricky spot, and tricky spots are what causes recession. So if the inflation is going up too high, but people are losing jobs, that is kind of often what causes recession. And when the Fed gets boxed in, these variables kind of conflate with one another. That is basically what causes recessions. So this article intentionally talks about there doesn't really seem to be any commitments right now. There doesn't seem to be any plan. There's no commitment to rate cuts. There's no promise of multiple cuts. They're basically waiting to see what happens, which generally means that, it's not that good. Usually what the Fed does is a lagging indicator. So if something's broken right now, if we're bleeding out, well, the Band-Aid and stitches are coming after we've already lost an arm, basically, is what's happening. So guys, stay tuned for more updates on this one. I just thought this was an interesting article to talk about, and then I'll give you my opinions on it, and I'll see you again very soon.